Welcome to the newest episode in an ongoing Legendarium series about the greatest knights. In this installment, King John of Bohemia, we will talk about a man who came from one of Europe's most powerful families. He became King of Bohemia while still a teenager and fought many wars both abroad and at home, making him one of Europe's most famous knights, yet his most renowned deed came during the 100 Years' War. John was born in the year 1296 in the county of Luxembourg. His father was the future Holy Roman Emperor Henry VII, then Count Henry of Luxembourg. Like many young German aristocrats of the time, young John spent his formative years in Paris, where he received a fine education from the French clergy. His school days came to an abrupt end at the age of 14 when the reigning emperor died and his father, the head of the ascendant Limburg-Luxembourg dynasty, began making plans for his own election as emperor. First, Henry made his son John Count of Luxembourg in 1360, and next year John was made King of Bohemia. As one of the 7 electors of the Holy Roman Empire, the 7 men who could cast a vote for who would become the next reigning monarch, young John was able to vote for his father, who then became Emperor Henry VII. However, the ascendancy of the Limburg-Luxembourg dynasty was dealt an unexpected and tragic blow in 1313 when John's father Henry suddenly died. With John too young to become emperor himself, he instead supported the election of an ally of the family, Louis the Bavarian, who became Emperor Louis IV in 1314. John remained King of Bohemia and one of the most powerful men in the Holy Roman Empire. At the age of 18, he married a noblewoman named Elizabeth, and together they had 7 children, which would keep the dynasty going for another generation. During his reign, John fought many wars to extend Bohemian power into Silesia and Upper Lusatia in the 1320s. He also spent a lot of money to keep up a lavish court. This made him even more unpopular with his subjects, who already disliked their largely Czech nation being ruled by a German. John also faced problems within his own household as well. Though he and Elizabeth had 7 children together, they never got along very well and lived in separate palaces. In time, John became fearful that Elizabeth would encourage his children to rise up in rebellion against him. So he forced his 3 oldest children, Margaret, Bon, and Charles, to continue their education in Paris. None of the 3 would ever see their mother Elizabeth again. And soon enough, John faced problems outside his household. Civil war loomed in the empire after the unexpected death of Louis IV. The rival house of Habsburg put up a candidate named Frederick the Handsome. One wonders if he gave himself that name. Of course, King John fought for the Limburg-Luxembourg candidate, but ultimately chose to help end the civil war in 1328 by switching sides and declaring his support for Emperor Frederick. He ended the civil war in part because he hated shedding civil blood. Yet this would not be the end of his military career. With wars in the empire over, he headed north to fight with the Teutonic Order against the pagan nations of Poland, Lithuania, and Russia. He adopted the words "I serve" or "Ich dien" as his personal motto, and his service would ultimately cost him dearly. While on campaign in the year 1336, he went blind in one eye from a disease that he picked up while camping. He was treated by a doctor who failed to restore sight to his eye. King John punished the doctor by drowning him. He then went to France and was treated by one of the most famous physicians in the continent, Guy de Chauliac. Not only did Chauliac failed to treat John's blind eye, but he caused him to lose the sight in his other eye. However, Guy was able to escape punishment, likely because he was the Pope's personal physician. John brushed aside rumors in Bohemia that blindness was God's punishment against him for his sins. During the 1340s, England invaded France in King Edward III's bid to claim the French crown for himself. The emperor supported England while John supported his childhood home of France. To keep England from gaining a powerful ally, John allied with the Pope, deposed Emperor Frederick, and made his son Charles the new emperor. John then rode off to join the French army to fight off the English invaders despite his blindness. He had to have his horse tethered to that of one of his men. He simply asked to be led to wherever the fighting was the most ferocious. He died at the Battle of Crécy at the age of 51, likely from an arrow wound. According to lore, Edward the Black Prince, heir to the throne of England, found the body of King John. Edward took John's motto, "I serve," and adopted it as his own credo, and it remains the credo of the Prince of Wales to this day. That wraps things up for this installment of the Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.